What's up and welcome to KplusGaming Corner, and in this Silksong video I'm sharing my best builds for each crest that I use most often, including different options and variations that could be helpful to those out there fine-tuning their own builds or tools and skills you might want to prioritize looking for if you're new to the game and just starting out. So without wasting any time, let's get right into it. Beginning with the crest we all start out with, the Hunter Crest, and really with all my crests, my Venta crest is always going to have a compass because I need to know exactly where I am at all times. I hate getting lost, and there really aren't enough other yellow tools besides the magnetite dice where I'd consider switching if I had to make a choice. The other constant I'm always going to have on is the fractured mask, which you get early on in the game, and I like knowing that I have that final failsafe in case things are going horribly wrong in either a boss fight or some tricky platforming area like the Cogwork Core. I know a lot of people will say once you reach the later stages of the game, you don't need the fractured mask anymore and opt for other blue tools like the injector band, the druid's eyes, or even the polyp pouch. But to me, those are luxuries if you can fit them in. To each their own, and I know the fractured mask has saved me more times than I can count, so for me, it stays on. For the Hunter Crest itself, it lends to a more balanced approach since you can use 2 red tools, 2 blue, and 2 yellows. As mentioned earlier with the yellow tools, the magnetite dice are my second most important for obvious reasons. Since there's a chance you can negate enemy damage randomly, the percentage goes up the more damage you take, maxing out at around 10%. In practical use, I'll notice a hit not taking any damage around twice per boss fight, sometimes more, sometimes less, but that can be the difference between victory and defeat, so I'll definitely take it. You get this tool usually by beating Lumble the Luck in a game of dice. He's over in the Blasted Steps area. For me, by the time I got to him, he was already dead, so I just grabbed it off his corpse. If you make it to Act 3 without it, which props to you if you manage that, you can still purchase the dice from Grindel for 300 rosaries. He's also over in the Blasted Steps. The other yellow tool I like with this crest is the Ascendant's Grip, which is very useful for platforming, allowing you to stick to walls while you're climbing and giving you a little bit more time to plot your next move a little easier. For the blue tools, I'm usually going with Reserved Bind for an extra chance to heal even if you don't have enough silk. Great if you're in trouble and taking too much damage. And then I like to use Long Claw, which increases the range of your weapon. If I'm having a tough time with a boss though, I might switch out Long Claw for the Druid's Eyes to help with some silk generation, so it depends on the situation. Honorable mention among the blue tools that I might throw on every once in a while with the Hunter Crest is the Sawtooth Circlet. Not the most necessary, but can be fun to use depending on what area you're in. I'm usually not really worried about which silk skill I'm using, especially with the Hunter Crest, but I do like using the Pale Nails, and the Cross Stitch can be useful if you're good at deflecting and parrying. For the red tools on the Hunter Crest, I always have with me the upgraded Curvesicle, but the regular Curve Claw you get early in the game is still good and a very effective way of dealing with flying enemies that like to keep their distance. Most people I've seen prefer the Cogflies no matter what crest they're using once they get their hands on them, but for me, I go back and forth with either the Sting Shard, which can be fun to spam, the Tacks, which are great if you're fighting enemies that are a little bit more on the ground a lot, and the Flint Slate, which increases your weapon damage by 50% for 8 seconds, and synergizes well if you have your Hunter Crest fully upgraded by Ava and are able to avoid taking hits while in battle. For the Reaper Crest, this one also allows you to have a pretty balanced loadout with 2 reds, 2 yellows, and 2 blue tools, plus your Venta Crest. And for the yellows here, I still have both the dice and the Ascendant's Grip, but since whenever I'm using the Reaper's Crest, that probably means I'm likely having some trouble in survival mode in a boss fight, so my reds and my blues are a little different. For the blue tools, I have on the Druid's Eyes, which in addition to the Reaper passive that generates silk per attack for a short time, this helps ensure you almost always have enough silk to heal, or close enough to it. And then I have on Reserve Bind just in case you don't. And for the reds here, I have the Cogflies who always have my back, and then I have the upgraded Plasmium File, which allows you to not have to constantly head to the Worm Waste to refill. If you only have the regular Plasmium and you're not in Act 3 yet, and you don't always feel like going out of your way for a refill, the Curve Claw, the Sting Shard, or the Tacks would be my next best option. Moving on to the Wanderer's Crest. I know a lot of people like this one, but I don't use it as often. Maybe every once in a while if I want to switch things up, but I don't like the idea of only using 1 red tool. I don't need 3 yellows, 4 if you count the Venta Crest, and even with Long Claw on, I still feel like you gotta get a little too close to enemies for a hit than I'd like to. If Wanderer is your thing, then by all means, rock out, but for me there's very few situations where this is the one I turn to. As usual with the yellows, I have the dice and the grip, and since you can throw 1 more yellow on there, I either go with the Silk Speed Anklets if I'm traversing the world, or I go with the weighted belt if I need a little bit more stability in a boss fight. For the blue tools, as mentioned, I usually go with the long claw, which is more important for my wanderer build than any other ones, and then it's usually reserve bind, or I'll go with the injector band for the other blue slot depending on if I'm in a boss fight with tighter windows to heal. You only get one red spot here, so I just go with the cog fly and call it a day, but any red tool of your choice works. The Beast Crest is the one I use the least, by far. Very high on the risk-reward scale, but I feel like it's way too much risk for the reward. Not for me, and I don't like not having any blue slots. But when I do have it on and I'm feeling a little frisky, the dice and the grip are there as well as the cog fly. But this time, since the pogo is so trash, I use the Delver's drill, which makes platforming with the Beast Crest infinitely easier, especially since it doesn't cost you any drills if you don't hit any enemies with it or you don't drill it into the ground or anything like that. As far as the silk skills go, for most of these crests, as I mentioned before, I really don't worry about it too much. It's more of like a secondary thought. I only worry about those when I'm using the Shaman crest. But for the most part, a lot of these crests I'll have on Rune Rage since I thought it looked cool and I never really took it off when I got it, and it does a good amount of AoE damage. Switching over to the Witch Crest, this one would actually be my favorite since I love almost everything about it if it wasn't for the way the healing works and needing enemies near you in order to replenish HP. I can't even count how many times I should have been able to heal, but an enemy swiftly maneuvers their way just out of reach, making it a waste of silk, plus now I'm in even more danger since usually there was a reason I needed to heal in the first place. When I am using the Witch Crest though, I make sure I have on the injector band so I can get those tentacles out as fast as possible, the reserve bind so I can do it again if I missed the first time, and then I have on the claw mirror so I can damage enemies in a wider radius and do some extra damage. This can be tricky though, since if you kill the weaker enemies too fast before landing the extra bind hits, you risk not being able to heal to your full potential. For another layer of protection while I have the Witch Crest on, I make sure I have the Plasmium File with me in case I wasn't able to heal properly. I'll at least be able to survive danger a little longer until I manage to get more silk and try again. When it comes to the Architect Crest, I like this one a lot since you get to equip 3 red tools at the cost of a silk skill, and as I mentioned before, I rarely use the silk skills anyway unless I'm using the Shaman Crest, which I'll get to the Shaman Crest in a second. The only thing with the Architect Crest is I'm not crazy about the pogoing and it takes a lot of getting used to, but sometimes I'll throw on the Delver's drill here just like with the Beast Crest if I have to do a lot of platforming. If not, I'll throw on the Plasmium File, sometimes overdosing on the blue stuff, which switches up your HP and allows you to passively heal instead of using silk in the regular way. The Cogfly and the Curve Sickle are staples here, and for the blues, I use the Injector Band and then either the Druid's Eye or the Polyp Pouch depending on the situation. And finally, the crest I use most often if I'm traveling around and not in some intense boss fight where I feel I need to switch to my Reaper. The Shaman crest has been my favorite since in most games I like playing the Mage or the Spellcaster. Only thing about the Shaman crest is you can't use any tools, but if I'm in the mood for that, I'll just switch over to the aforementioned Architect. For the skills, I have Silk Spear in the main slot since it's quick and easy to deploy and has great range on it. I will note though that it seems like Silk Spear got shadow nerfed in the latest patch. I noticed the other day with this enemy, for example, I used to take him out with 1 slash, now it takes 2 though. Did it a few times just to make sure it wasn't me, just something I wanted to point out, but it's still an effective skill nonetheless. For the other skills, I go with the Pale Nail since it's also really good and tracks enemies as well, and then I have Threadstorm, which I don't use as often, but it's there in case I need it. You can only equip blue tools with this one, and I have on the Void Filament, which gives your silk skills an extra electric charge and can give extra ticks of damage, and you get even more damage while using the Shaman crest, so it works great synergistically. For the other blue, I most often use the spool extender so I can have more silk at my disposal, but I've also used the Weave Light to increase the rate of silk generation, which can also be very useful here. So there you have it. These are all my most common setups for each different crest you unlock during the game. It's what I love the most about Silksong, and definitely an improvement over Hollow Knight, although I like the options you have in Hollow Knight too, but Silksong gives you so much more build variety and there's so many different ways any 2 people can play with the same crest. It gets my creative juices flowing. Let me know in the comments which crests you like the most and how you have yours set up. I love sharing ideas, and also let me know if there's anything I missed or a tool I'm not using that I definitely should be. Thanks so much for watching if you made it this far, and do give the video a like and a thumbs up and hype it up if you haven't already. Definitely helps with the YouTube algorithms and pushes us out to more people that might be looking for ideas on how to put their builds together or new players looking for some help. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please consider subscribing and ringing that notification bell to make sure you're getting all the updates on when I'm going live or dropping new videos. I love you guys, and thanks so much for all your support. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Until then, peace!